Welcome to the Chamber Spotlight, a local talk show podcast brought to you by the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce in association with the local scene. We'll be recording on a regular basis and we'll cover many topics that span local businesses, local elections, local town governance, and a citizens' academy. I'm your host, Fraser Townley, and today is March 30th. Already, end of the first quarter. And I'm sitting down with Andrew Sullivan from Protectowire. Andrew, how are you?
Very good. How are you today?
Yeah,
Fraser?
Terrific. Thank you. Before we get talking, we're going to skip to the town hall and hear some headlines from Andrea Cesarini.
Sounds good.
Today's March 30th, and I'm at town hall with Andrea Cesarini. Andrea, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. You got some headlines.
I do. So public meetings this week. Our Zoning Board of Appeals will be meeting this Monday, March 30th. The Board of Health will be meeting Tuesday, March 31st. And the Select Board will be meeting Wednesday, April 1st. The Zoning Board of Appeals will also be meeting on Monday, April 13th for the continued public hearing on the proposed battery energy storage site on 48 Scoosett Street. Meetings need to be scheduled within 48 hours, so check the section of the town website titled Agendas and Minutes and set the start and end date for the time period you are interested in for the latest update. A reminder that a majority of these meetings are broadcast on the local scene, and meetings can be rewatched on www.thelocalscene.media/Pembroke/. Some other headlines around town. Just a reminder that road construction has begun on West Elm Street from approximately 64 West Elm Street to 423 West Elm Street, including Old West Elm Street and on Dwelly Street from the West Elm Street intersection to 105 Dwelly Street. Construction hours will be between the hours of 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. and are expected to go until August 2026. Please seek alternative routes. Pembroke Recreation Department's annual egg hunt is this Thursday, April 2nd, beginning at 4:30. Swing by the community center for some egg sighting fun. For the latest updates on programs hosted by the Recreation Department, visit the Pembroke Recreation Department's Facebook page. Property tax exemption applications are due Wednesday, April 1st, this Wednesday. There are absolutely no exceptions on this submission date, so please contact our assessor's office at 781-293-2393 with any questions. The clerk's office is still collecting annual censuses. Please return your street listings by June 1st to avoid being listed as inactive on the voter registration list. Inactive voters are still considered registered to vote and can still participate in elections and town meetings. There's a $15 late fee for dog licenses to go into effect Wednesday, April 1st. And lastly, nomination papers for the local election were due back last Friday, March 27th. The last day for any candidates to withdraw is Tuesday, April 14th. Currently, there are 3 contested races. There are 4 candidates for 2 open seats on the Select Board, 3 candidates for 2 open seats on the Library Trustees, and 2 candidates for 1 open seat on the Board of Health. All other races are contested.
That's very good. Thank you very much, Andrea. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so that's the town headlines. And now, Andrew, it's all yours. The show is all yours.
Wow. Where do we start, Fraser?
Well, let's start from the beginning. Let's have a bit of background about you, a personal background.
61 years in the town of Pembroke. I imagine, I always wonder who the oldest resident is, and I kind of see myself being that person because I don't plan to move, and hopefully I'll live many years more. That, that's going to be a tough record to beat.
Yeah.
I had a brief...
So you're not the oldest resident, but you've lived in here the longest.
Potentially.
Yes.
But I'm sure there's people that have beaten me, but I'm a townie through and through. Mm-hmm. And it's been a great town to grow up in and be a part of and witness the changes. And we grew up on High Street. My parents moved to the South Shore in the 50s and lived on Mattakesett Street. My father was practicing a law business, and they built a house on High Street. And when I was born, we were living on High Street. So by the age of 18, we had moved over to Washington Street, where I live today. But growing up on High Street in Pembroke, man, those were the good years. I look back on them so fondly. Mm-hmm. You know, you didn't come in until it got dark. Yeah. And the neighborhood kids were great. I'm still friends with a lot of them today. Yeah. Rode bicycles all over the town. Long summers were just so fun. Hogmuck Ponds, all the ponds in Pembroke. And Silver Lake great experience. We were a regional school back then. Pembroke had its own campus, but it was a regional high school. So I was along and during that era. But I moved out of Pembroke briefly down to the Plymouth area here for a little bit. I was in Scituate for a little bit, but for most part have been in Pembroke, and graduated in the early 80s, and went to work for the family business by the mid to late 80s.
Yeah.
So,
Was the family business your first job?
No,
Okay.
I had I was messing around a few other things. I had a business degree out of Bridgewater State University in the 80s, and so I did try a few other companies out, but the timing was pretty good to get involved in the family business. My parents, my dad became legal counsel for Protectowire in the 50s. He met the founder of Protectowire, Gerald Holmes. Mr. Holmes is quite a story. He owned the house I live in now and the property there. He was from York Harbor, Maine, and they summered in Pembroke, which is kind of funny, right?
Yeah.
It was a beautiful coastal town, York Harbor, Maine, and
You wanted inland with the lakes.
and they summered in Pembroke. And in the barn the old animal barn next to the historic house on the river there, he invented Protectowire. Pre-World War II, 1938, he came up with the invention.
Yeah.
And his wife, Sarah, was an integral part of it. We have his diary in a fire apparatus museum in our lobby, and very intriguing to see, as he came up with concepts for the invention and ended up getting a patent and trademark. And that was the start of the business. And he was looking for legal counsel and met my dad. So that was my family's introduction to the business by the 50s. And fast forward, my father had a very active law business. Many, many people in Pembroke, old-timers, knew my parents quite well. My dad was legal counsel for the town. Mm-hmm. He was president of Historic Society, probably where I get my historic interests. He, wrote many wills for many residents in Pembroke back in the day. So he became friends with Mr. Holmes. Everybody used to gather at Bobby Hackett's back then.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's where Dish is today.
Yeah.
So that was the great meeting place, and I think that's where my dad met Mr. Holmes, and we were very close with the Hackett family growing up. So my dad's legal counsel for the firm, and they were hiring presidents and, staffing the business. My dad was still actively practicing law, so he was kind of more of a silent owner, part owner at that point. Mr. Holmes passed in the early 80s, and the business went in full ownership to my family around that time. So it was a very smooth transition. I remember as a young teenager going up to York Harbor to visit Mrs. Holmes, and I think my father looked at it as much as a land acquisition as the business. Protectowire was a sleepy little company back then that did primarily government and military installations, direct sales, not through a distribution network or what have you. It was very specialized and not international at all. I think we could probably track our first international sales to late 80s, early 90s. So, the company started in 38. We were U.S. Steel, Bethlehem Steel, some of the big, American Electric Power, Tennessee Valley Authority. The military work and the build-up to World War II, we did a lot of aircraft, Air Force installations, Thule Air Force Base in Greenland, Pearl Harbor, Guam. It was kind of neat. Mr. Holmes did a really good job of getting in with the government, and Protectowire was a great solution to protecting these military installations with a robust, durable fire system for all these buildings that were housing our military. So that was a big part of our early days too, and it's funny, we still get some service calls remote from some of these places from
Yeah.
a control panel from, the 40s. I don't think we're still carrying the modules to keep those things afloat, but I think it's time for a new system.
Sure.
But
So I'm sorry, Andrew. You're going from 0 to 60 very quickly.
I know it's such a long story.
Well, it's a terrific story, but I think it would certainly help me. So I'm guessing the listeners as well. For you to explain what Protectowire does.
Sure.
Because you're telling us where it's got to, but
right.
What does it do?
Yeah, so it's a special hazard fire detection system. And Mr. Holmes came up with this brilliant concept of it's a twisted pair of conductors that can sense heat anywhere along its length. So we are a heat detector is the primary product, the Protectowire linear heat detector. But then there's a lot of control equipment and accessories that round out this comprehensive fire system. But the heart of it is the linear heat detector. So when looking at the fire alarm industry worldwide, there's life safety and property safety.
Right.
Life safety codes are typically smoke detection systems that you'd find in residences and offices and high rises and what have you. Wherever there's people, life safety codes kick in.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't us. We are in property safety. We're protecting high value property. So it spans the gamut. There's so many diverse installations, but some of our typical ones would be the industries are power generation, petrochemical facilities, transportation facilities. So let's take Boston Logan. It's a great example. Aircraft hangars.
Yeah.
$1 billion in assets sitting in this giant building with jets that you have to have a pretty comprehensive fire system, security system, as you can imagine. Insurance companies, there's a lot at risk here. There's a lot of codes.
Yeah.
It's a world most people probably don't think much about or get too involved in, but that's our ballywick. So we'll be in that aircraft hangar with our linear detector protecting the structure. We would have optical flame detectors, which we carry, that would look under the wings of the jets for a spark, very sensitive optical detectors. So there's specialty detectors for heavy industry. We're in mines and tunnels and warehouses and transformers and cable trays and conveyor belts. It really,
And on military bases.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's heat detection. So where there's people, and we do carry smoke detection, but that's a larger industry. There's today it's kind of sad. NFPA is the association for our industry, coincidentally based up the street in Quincy. They write the Bible. They write the fire code books. So NFPA has an annual meeting, and I think this has happened in a lot of industries. But if you went to our annual show, you used to see 100 small companies in booths, and they were such great personalities. And there's all these Protectowire type people, but then everybody's been bought out now. You go to the show and it's kind of sad that it's just like 4 big companies and there's little old Protectowire still in the corner. Like, well, we're not selling out. Yep. But it's lost a little bit of that personality, I'd say. But, the Siemens, Tycos, Simplexes, the big conglomerates, Honeywell would be a good example. Those are the big players in the fire alarm industry.
Yeah.
Primarily focused on the life safety side, office buildings, high rises, hotels. And when they have a specialty job for a special hazard location, they'd call us.
Right.
So we're kind of like the bottom of, we're not an everyday use maybe for a lot of these distributor type folks that are installing. Again, this is really worth clarifying. We are a manufacturer. We make this product line from scratch, and we can often be 5 steps removed from the end user.
Right.
We don't know where it goes.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily want us to know where it goes to protect their customers. When I travel, I always want to see end users.
Yeah.
Because you want to know how your product. But our job is to support our distribution network and train them and make sure they're taking good care of our product and representing us well. But we often don't even know where the product ends up. I hear secondhand oftentimes, like, hey, did you know your product was in this building? And I didn't. But it finds its way to industry through our authorized distributors. And there's maybe 150 of these distributors worldwide. So it's a special hazards industry that's really quite unique, quite specialized. Airports, I was talking about, subway systems. Our largest customer worldwide was a Russian customer I'm very close with. Been doing business there since the 90s, and these wars aren't good for business. And this guy is not a fan of Putin. He is a salt of the earth. I show no remorse whatsoever in being friends with a Russian. People have this negative connotation to it, but there's real people everywhere in the world, and there's these proxy wars that go on with governments, and then there's business goes on here. And Anton Anikov, I have so much respect for. He's done so much for our business over the years, and he installs Protectowire in metro systems and is very successful with it, where he is our largest distributor worldwide. And, so that relationship is what I focus on is, the big distributors out there that are moving the bulk of our products come to visit us. Domestic is 40% of sales and international 60% of sales nowadays. So, we often get visitors from around the globe. And we go and see them too. We go to their regional trade shows overseas, Intersec in Dubai, China Fire, and NFPA is in Vegas in June. There's a handful of major fire shows worldwide. Australia Fire is coming up. That our sales staff will get out there to these shows. I don't tend to go quite as much as I used to. I haven't kept an accurate track of my miles, but I know it's quite close to 5 million miles.
I was going to say, I know it's over 4.
Lifetime travel. I mean, in the 90s, Fraser, I was, in my late 20s, I'm in Indonesia. I'm in Jakarta making sales calls.
Yeah.
It was the coolest thing. I traveled all through Asia, all through Russia, Brazil. I mean, it was such a life-learning experience. And my closest friends and associates today, I've met from in our very intimate industry worldwide.
Yeah.
It's the same people. Wherever you go, you're going to, it's like a cult. Once you're in fire protection, because it's code-driven, this is a good clarification to make too, is to be successful in our industry, you have to have your products approved through underwriter laboratory, factory mutual approval. There's all kinds of approvals out there, ISO 9000. So that does kind of create a barrier. Like, let's say someone wants
a good barrier.
In a way, I mean, it comes at a big expense. I mean, we're, the test institutes are visiting us in our quality assurance programs, and, it's a department to keep up with the approval process. But if you're not approved, you're out of the game.
Yeah.
And if you say, hey, that looks like a great industry, I want to get into it, you have years of getting your product approved.
I know it.
And ready to sell. And now, hey, let's go try to knock off. Protectowire has been at it for 87 years.
Yeah.
So, I don't ever want to be arrogant about it whatsoever, but we always have to look after our quality, is my main focus, and taking care of our distributors. And, we're not trying to be someone we're not. Really don't try to get out of our lane too much. We have a big world out there to take care of in the industrial sector. And there's some very, these are Fortune 500 companies we're working with. Aramco, I love this, this one case is we have a distributor in Egypt who is very successful with our products in the petrochemical industry. Aramco is the largest oil company, I think, in the world.
Yeah, from
And
Saudi.
From Saudi, yes. The distributor, I think, has offices in Egypt. He's Pakistani in his background. He comes over to visit. It's fantastic. Javad is his name. And he's what a wonderful man, you know. It's really these relationships is what I truly treasure and enjoy. You know, I want to do all we can to support this guy. He's hugely successful with our products. And they install Protectowire in a fuel storage, you know, so there's giant tanks that hold crude oil with a floating roof on the top. So there's no air gap as the crude gets pumped in and out. But to wrap your head around the scope of the installation, you could fit 3 football fields end to end.
Wow.
On top of that tank. So this is where our product goes in these industrial settings that are not built to human proportions. You know, we're in steel plants. We're in Bao Steel in Shanghai. It's the 5th largest steel producer in the world, Bao Steel. 25,000 employees on 5,000 anchors on the Yangtze River. The pier that they receive iron and ore from Chile and around the globe for making steel is the largest pier in the world on the Yangtze River.
Good grief.
And I'm standing on this pier, you know, and it's a Protectowire installation.
Nice.
So it's so cool to go out and see where our product ends up. And it's a world that most, you know, life in a vacuum, this is where I've been, you know, 30 years plus and been my sole focus. And it's been the greatest learning experience. And I am so jazzed to get my kids out there to see these customers and learn from the travel. And, you know, my kids are 14, 18, and 20. And actually planning a trip here in May over to Europe. We're going to go visit a few customers. And, you know, they're in college. We'll see if they have some interest in it in the years ahead. But no better way to really learn the business than to go out and see the customers who are using it and where it's installed. So.
For sure. I did the same thing with my business, did a lot of business in Asia, a lot of business in Europe. Once a year, I would always take my family.
Right.
Wife, children, everything. And I discovered they were my greatest asset because every night you go out for dinner with a supplier or a vendor or whatever, and you'd say, look, I've got my wife with me this time around and my children. Can I bring my wife and my children? Sure you can. And all of a sudden, the dynamic changes and it's very, very positive.
I'm so excited about it. And our kids have met customers as they've come and gone through our headquarters here in Pembroke. But, you know, it's time at their age now to get out and see these facilities.
Sit in their backyard.
Sit in their backyard.
Yeah.
And our distributors are typically, you know, privately held firms that are multi-generational. So, you know, there's many cases where I have a peer of a distributorship who sells our products, and their children are in the business now. So, you know, my children will get to meet their children. And what a great thing that we can both pass the torch, hopefully, to continue this successful relationship we've built up over 30 plus years. You know, my earliest trips when I started in the business in '86 I went to Russia in the early 90s when Yeltsin fired the parliament. I'm on the streets there making sales calls. It was incredible to experience that. But, you know, those relationships that were formed in 91 are
still
there today. And
and
they've really been the success of our business. And I'm so appreciative to them. When they come to visit us, and I think you've been to our headquarters, which was built in 2011, a lot of thought went into hosting training seminars and hosting guests that we can really roll out the red carpet for these VIPs that often visit us throughout the year.
I hear there's a new beer garden. Is that true?
Well, during business hours, I like to call it a pavilion.
Oh, okay.
Fraser.
Okay.
It's a Protectowire pavilion, but
right.
At 5 o'clock, you know, the neon Sully's tap light comes on. But no, it's a great facility. We just closed in our patio. It's about 40 by 40. And we're hosting a chamber event there coming up in June. So
looking forward to it.
It's really not, we're still kind of getting settled into it, but with all these guests coming through, it's nice to have space
Makes sense.
and the employees are enjoying it. We're a small family business. There's only 40, 45 employees or so, and it's a wonderful work environment. It's probably not for everyone. It really is an extended family, and you got to kind of pull up your bootstraps and go to work, and without a lot of oversight, that everybody's work counts, and it's not like a Boston business structure. We're a manufacturer, so we don't have visitors daily. It's kind of a casual setting, and but it's a wonderful setting, and
it's a very professional setting.
It is.
I've been there a couple of times, and you don't get the sense it's casual.
I know. I guess I am, because I'm stumbling in from the farm every day.
Right.
But I guess all industries, really kind of got away from the suit and tie look.
Yeah.
But
it's not how you dress; it's how you perform.
Right. And we run a tight ship. We have a new COO. Vern Gruss has been with us for 4 or 5 years now, and he's an ex-Navy submariner, and this guy is all business. He's helped a lot improve our efficiencies, and we've made some wonderful strides. 87-year-old company, there's always room for improvement, but we run a tight ship. Mm-hmm. It's amazing what we get out the door. It's a 30,000 square foot manufacturing plant. Our sales, we were up 35% last year, which I know it. And everything just kind of clicked last year. We've been traveling to a lot of international markets, and a lot of good things happen. A lot of efficiencies have been made, and we've never been in a better spot. And are
the tariffs impacting you at all?
Not terribly.
It's not a Pembroke question, but it's...
I know, but it's certainly on my radar, and it has to some degree. We source some products from Europe that we've seen a tariff increase, but hasn't really seemed to have been a barrier for us selling to our traditional markets.
No, 60% of your business goes overseas, so...
Right.
That's terrific. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's neat. Little sleepy company in Pembroke, selling throughout Asia, and it's a real niche thing, and it's fun to be around.
Cool. So let's bring it back to Pembroke. You do a lot of philanthropy in the town. You want to talk about that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. With all that international travel, I got away from Pembroke and really hadn't given it much thought. What's going on in our backyard, it just really wasn't part of my focus with worldwide travel and developing the business. But I started to get a little burned out from trips to Asia in particular. I think it's 30 hours door to door, 13-hour time change. And, once you've seen the Great Wall of China, it's a hard racket. And I finally said, you know what, our company's growing and we've hired more staff. So I stopped doing a lot of the big international trips, and I started raising a family. And my children were getting of the age to get active in town sports, and I started going around to my old haunts here, to the high school and the town center and what have you, playing baseball and basketball in these Pembroke youth sports. And I really enjoyed coaching and getting active with that. And I started to look around a little more critical eye at my hometown here, and saw not much had changed.
Yeah.
And the community center in particular, I do tell a story of my daughter Lucy was playing youth basketball, and I went into the community center, and I was kind of horrified just that it really hadn't changed, and since my youth. And so many people remember the old bingo hall on the bottom level and the upper level there, and we were running a daycare center out of it, and the building was close to being condemned. And I made the fatal error of talking to the select board to say, hey, what's going on with that building? And they said, Andy, we think you're the right guy at the right time. And I said, oh boy, here we go. But I was excited, and that was kind of the start of it. We formed a study committee to look at the community center. We studied past committees' work, and there had been a few committees prior that had looked at it and just had not had any success to come up with a plan that, we rolled up our sleeves, we put together a great committee, and we started packaging it to approach the town as a whole, what could be done there, you know? So in that process, it was so cool because I started visiting all the town departments and really reconnecting with childhood friends. A lot of people in Pembroke that are still there, I grew up with a lot of them. So it was neat to really kind of look back inward at Pembroke, see where it was at, and see how I could help out. I was getting more involved in, with the sports and all, and the company was growing to the point where I could take a little bit of time away and focus. So that kind of, my philanthropic desires outside of Pembroke have been very involved with the South Shore YMCA for many, many years. It used to be the Mill Pond Tennis Club up in Hanover.
Yep, I know it.
I was part of a committee when the Y bought Mill Pond and the Y, they built the Emerson Center. And then we also did the Quincy Y, which is part of the South Shore YMCA. It was a big project for them. But one of the nonprofits that's most near and dear to my heart, is the South Shore Science Center in Norwell. That is one of the branches of the South Shore Y now. And my mom was very involved with the Science Center. As a kid, we spent a lot of time there. And it's just a wonderful resource right here on the South Shore. I'm a bird nerd. I'm a nature freak, and I live on a farm. So that's my passion outside, of work and all, and with the kids is, we have a horse farm. We have mini Highlander cows and chickens and goats that I love being outdoors. I love being with the animals. And my 2 Labradoodles are always with me in the golf cart. So the Science Center is probably, and then the North and South River Watershed Association, been very involved with Sam Woods, the director, with that group as well. So I really enjoy giving back. The company's doing great. I'm very active with the kids in schools and all, but not as much hand-holding there. They're a little older now. So I'm on the board of trustees for Thayer Academy, where my daughter Emmy's going there. So I'm really enjoying that too. I'm always like a buildings and grounds guy. So, at Thayer, they have a really cool campus, wonderful campus. I'm actually up there tonight. So I love giving back in that regard too, getting involved with schools. I love being around kids and I love nature. So, I'm always looking for those programs. We bring kids in a lot to the farm, so I love opening up the doors. There's a really cool thing that happens when kids are around animals. Put your phone down and put your hand on a horse and your heart rate lowers. Really good things happen. Yeah. So I really get off on kids taking a break from this crazy world and chill out with animals. And I see doing more and more of that in the years ahead, So those are some of the other areas. But, the town of Pembroke and the community center, that was the biggest, nonprofit thing I got involved in. It was over 5 years to get it across the finish line. There was a lot of hurdles along the way, but really such a relief.
Why don't you describe some of those hurdles, if it's possible?
Yeah. Well, I think it was probably 5 years start to finish. So when we started the committee, we started scratching the surface to see what had been done before and why weren't those plans successful. We were working with I often would say one of the key turning points for the project was we involved Bargman, Hendry, and an archetype. They are an engineering firm out of Boston that designs community centers nationwide.
Specialist? Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And they've done, let's say, 20 in the state of Mass.
Okay.
And they know what works today's day and age and how they should be built. There's a real science to it, as you can imagine. People movement.
Yeah.
And ours was a little twist in that it was half Council on Aging and half Pembroke Rec.
Yeah.
But still, when Joel Bargman came on board and the town, So this is the campaign here is first we had to get funding from the town for the engineering study. That, I think that might have been $50,000 to $75,000. The town approved that at a town meeting. So that was our first little win. Now we've got some monies to really put pen to pencil, pencil to pad, pad to paper. And Joel, we had a committee of, I think it was 7 to 9 folks that are all volunteers. What do we know about building a community center? We're passionate about the town, but with Joel on board, it was the real deal. And he showed us, we worked together with him on what's best for Pembroke. And we formulated the plan. And it really, it took some turns, ebbs and flows, but, as far as its size and scope and costs and all that came together. So now we have and the important thing, you need the town bought in on a project like this, or it's just not, you need the voters. And we're not trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes, but you better take your time and explain very clearly what you're proposing here, because it will involve an override,
Yeah.
And most people, when they get in the ballot box, there's 2 boxes. One says no taxes, or one says more taxes. You're not going to be too inclined to vote for more taxes unless it's something you really see a need for. And so we had to really educate the town on the benefits of this new building. The existing community center, existing council on aging, it was a tiny little building there. The old library with the bee on the top. I remember, the spelling bee contest as a kid back in the day there. It was a cool building, but only servicing 200 seniors in the town of Pembroke. And there are 6,000 seniors.
Yeah.
So they are being underrepresented, and they deserve a community center like most towns have for their seniors, or council on aging. So we went before the council on aging, working with them. What do they see? What would work for them? And there was a lot of questions to departments to package this together, get everybody's input, and get everybody bought in on let's make this. Let's try to solve as many things as we can with this building for as many people as we can in the town. And that was a long process, And so now it's such a roller coaster ride, the whole process. At one point, we were ready to present to the town to see if they would vote for it. And it was denied. And, there's various factors of why that didn't get approved that night.
Was that the vote during COVID?
I think it was.
Yeah.
And there were some other things on the docket for the town. And, it was a real eye-opener for how we presented it. And maybe we hadn't done enough groundwork to educate people. But we got turned away. And I will say there was more than one point when we almost threw in the towel and said, I don't see this happening. There was some negativity. We had one time tried to propose a housing arrangement with it too, because there was a need for affordable housing, and there still is. There all, that I think that clouded the issue, and we quickly got away from that. It was too much to try to solve a housing issue in town in the community center. So there's a pretty cool plan though that shows that from the early days. So, we massaged it, and we went back to the drawing board and went before the town again, and eventually it was approved. And I think it was $21 million project.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to carry, there's 4 districts in Pembroke that had to vote on it on election day. And it was tight. It was 1,100 votes to 850.
Wow.
And people in politics tell me that's not close, but sure seemed close to me. And, it was funny.
We're not in politics, Andrew.
I know. And so many people I look back at that weren't for it. There was a lot of vocal people that didn't see a need for it. And the thought of just driving by the old building that's condemned in the middle of our town on, 30 acres to have an abandoned building in the middle of our town, that would ever be acceptable to people in the long term, that, we want a town we can be proud of. We want a town that services the citizens and the residents and, something that's a real heartbeat of the town. And that's what we were building there, and now to see kids hanging out there and seniors hanging out there.
Oh, it's the jewel.
And you could see that if we could get over the hump, that, good things would follow and that it was the right thing to do. There's never a doubt that maybe a little bit of pinch that we all got to pinch in taxes to do this. It wasn't a huge override for it, to be honest. There's some things coming off the books and what have you, but it was worth every penny. And it's great to see it in use now. It's so rewarding. It was just over the weekend. There was an event there that Sips and
Stitches, or I did see that.
Sips and they got it maybe
Sips and Tips.
Okay.
I don't know what
it was. I hadn't been in there for too often since it's opened up, but great to see it in full use.
Yeah,
very rewarding. And we had a great crew of folks that were so dedicated to seeing that thing cross the finish line. So now I talk to other residents. What's next up? And there are other areas too. I really can't help but look at the Hatch building. The bookends to the community center, the Boys Club, the old COA building, and the Hatch building. Yeah, all need some love. Mm-hmm. Hatch building more than any. It's a beautiful historic building that is, again, I don't know if it's condemned.
What's it used for nowadays?
It's owned by the school, and I don't think it's used for anything. There was a private company. It was like Plymouth Co-op that had offices in it. It had nothing to do with the town of Pembroke. They were renting some space. So I don't think anybody's in there, and I wouldn't think anyone would want to be in there because I don't think it's habitable. I really don't. I think I don't know.
It's another Turner house.
Pretty much, but on a bigger scale. And maybe there's CPC funding could be looked at for its resurrection, but it's a beautiful historic building right next to the community center, and it needs to be addressed. And I don't know if I have the time to take it on like we did the community center, but hopefully there's other people out there too that see the need and are always looking to improve our town and take these challenges on. That they're not easy, but it can be done. The community center is a great example of that.
I think right now the town is facing a big ask with the VOTEC. That's going to be it. So at the next town meeting, we'll be voting on the override for VOTEC. There are two bills as well. We have to buy our share of the building. I believe that's going to be about 16 million. I could be wrong with the precise number, but it's under 20. And then there is the operational running. So the cost of sending a pupil there. So there's buying the building or our share of the building, and then there's paying for up to, I think after 5 years, there's 84 students eligible.
Where is it to be located?
South Shore, the South Shore VOTEC in Hanover.
Okay.
So they're building a wing that will allow more students to go.
And we would contribute to that.
We're contributing to the building of that wing, and as a result of that, we're eligible to send so many pupils to...
So area towns are participating, and
Correct.
They get space to use there, and Pembroke High School certainly could use it.
Yeah, yeah.
As I think maybe with the breakup of Silver Lake, did maybe some of those programs went to the Silver Lake side, and Pembroke maybe lost a little bit.
We did, and I think we also, there was we would have to have another podcast on this, but I believe we got a reduction in the ability. We can still send children to Silver Lake or pupils to Silver Lake, but I think it was reduced because we weren't contributing or whatever the facts are. We need to get the facts on this. I'm not going to spout on.
But again, you got to get this through the town meeting, and
That's got to get through town meeting. I would imagine there's a DPW building that's going to need some kind of overhaul or replacement soon. And so, I don't know, we've got to work harder with the Historic Society and to see what we can do, see how we can help.
Right. Yeah, I think about, the tax base for the town, and I am a historic person by nature, living in a home built in 1715. It was a shipbuilder site. But having said that, I really want to preserve our historic buildings, particularly downtown. But we need to be pro-business too. And great tax revenues, we should be open-minded to businesses coming to the town of Pembroke.
Yeah.
And there's a place, there's places where they make sense. We don't, that I think out on, 53 and other areas that I'm hopeful, it makes for it's a game changer to get commercial businesses to town to help with taxes to fund needs for the town, and not just rely on the residents.
Absolutely.
And, Protectowire is one of the larger employers in the town. I want help.
Yeah.
But, we pay our fair share for sure. And I just think to tackle the town's needs in the years ahead, we should be pro-business. Of course, the Chamber of Commerce, I met you first at the Chamber, I guess. And, it's such a wonderful town with existing businesses today. And it's great to have our chamber getting more robust and active and figuring out ways to encourage businesses to come here and make it more inviting to them. And it's only going to aid our town in the years ahead.
Sure. But, bringing businesses to the town of Pembroke, it's not as straightforward as just saying, well, we want more businesses. You got to have the infrastructure. You got to have the affordable housing. And when I say affordable housing, I'm not talking 40B. I'm talking about housing that the employees can afford so that they can live local.
That's a great point. I have 45 employees, and they're traveling from Lakeville and Bridgewater,
right.
And very few. Good luck finding a home in Hanover, even in Pembroke. The housing crisis nationwide, it's funny just what you make and pay and what it costs to have a house. I mean, to be a millennial today,
yeah,
you've got a new wife, you want to start a family. It is so hard when I look at it and hear the stories that, a 2-bedroom condo is $600,000 starting out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you do the math on what a couple is making for pay, and they're just starting out, and then bring kids into the mix. It's not a great formula, and I hope there's things in motion to improve it. It just seems like you keep building condos everywhere, and there's still never enough. I don't know. I'm a little detached from it because I have a house I live in, but it's hard for people to get ahead and buy your first home and build up some equity.
Yeah.
And
I think the new ADU law is going to help. Certainly in Pembroke. I've spoken to a lot of people who are planning putting a second home on their property, moving into that second home and giving the major house to the kids to raise their family in.
Right.
So that will help keep people here. But, how do we attract new people, more people coming to Pembroke? And that's what we're focused on at the Chamber.
There was a great study done by the South Shore Chamber of Commerce. I think the title was something like Housing 2025. It was probably done 5 years or so ago. Peter Foreman was the president of the South Shore Chamber at the time. I remember the president of Rockland Trust, Mr. Chris Odlitson, was heading it up. And it was a fascinating study. The question was, the chicken or the egg here. For staffing businesses on the South Shore, you need housing.
Yeah.
their study recognized that really the housing's the key. If you can provide housing, you will get good workers.
Yeah.
And that I don't know if that was ever fully implemented, but it's been a hot topic for a lot of years, and that it's a problem that still exists today. And my staff, it's being thinking of it selfishly or personally, for my folks to be in commuting distance and have a decent quality of life. And, we pay a very competitive wage for all our staff. We're up to par with wages and what have you. But people do struggle for finding good places to live, and they seem to have to go further and further afield to find something. But I do have a great staff. We have some new hires, and it's such a great environment with our crew now. And it's been a bit of a changing of the guard. I had about 4 vice presidents that made up my executive team that have all retired within the last 5 years. It was a real brain drain, It scared me, these folks moving on, and who's going to step up. And, we do have a younger crowd that suddenly I'm the oldest guy now. And it's interesting to see. There's a few folks there that date back as far as I've been there, but mostly new faces or newer folks with new ideas, and it's great. And they're taking the baton and running with it. And so it's an exciting time at our company, and I'm excited to have newer managers on board that can pick up the slack. And losing those 4 key VPs really, one after another, was a big change for the business, but the transition's been pretty good overall.
Good. So listen, you're clearly a very busy, from your career point of view and from your looking out for the town point of view. What do you do in your spare time?
Well, as I was alluding to, I live on a farm. So, Mr. Holmes, when he bought Protectowire, when he founded Protectowire, it was on 60 acres on the North River there.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at every day. And somewhere in the woods of those 60 acres, you'll typically find me. And we built our new factory up the street on a budding land so we can get to it from the farm. So, with the animals and the company right up the street there, that's pretty much my days are spent, going back and forth here. My wife and I travel quite a bit. We have a home down on Singer Island in Florida. She loves Florida. She doesn't like the cold. So
Is she there now?
She is not, surprisingly, though. She wishes she was.
Right.
But Jamie is wonderful in that she has her own tennis app she started. She's really passionate about it. It's really exciting. She's having some fun with that. She's got a home office with her friends and spending her days with that. So, but we tend to travel quite a bit. Our oldest son's at Clemson. We love going down there. Awesome atmosphere out in the woods of South Carolina, Clemson University. Our daughter's a freshman down at UMiami, which, we got to keep checking in on her. Pretty crazy lifestyle down there in Miami, but she's doing great. And so we travel a lot to see where our kids are at. And also, just various vacations. We had spring break recently. Our youngest, 14, Emmy, at freshman at Thayer. She and her friends, we went over to the Bahamas for a little bit for spring break. So, we travel. We love traveling. We love boating. We're boating a lot. We have a boat in Plymouth, so we spend a lot of time on Martha's Vineyard, too. I love now, with customers visiting, we have a boat in Plymouth. So it's such a kick to take, let's just say it's a technician from Cincinnati, Ohio, may not have ever even seen the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
And he's in town for training with us, and we take him out of Plymouth.
Nice.
And Peter Brown, one of my closest friends, he's so plugged into Plymouth that, he'll set us up for tours around the town. We talk a lot about lodging. I really wish there was better hotels in Plymouth, and we put a lot of, over the course of a year, over 100 folks stay locally to be with us for training. And their housing options aren't great.
No.
From Pembroke, where you just want a reputable hotel but on the Plymouth waterfront, what's better than that? So
Nothing, actually. There you
right.
go.
And
Answered.
so you're this tech from Cincinnati in your late 20s. This is your Carthard wearing crowd here. These are, they're installing fire systems, and they love the farm. They love hunting, and they all love boating. It's 99% male. Our industry, very rare to see a woman engineer or installer in fire systems. I wish there were more, and it's a great career. I wish more would get involved in it, but it's just the nature of the beast, I guess. But
Well, you don't have an opinion. You're stating a fact.
right,
It's a fact.
that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, go to one of our trade shows.
Yeah.
It's majority males, and when they visit for training, to take them out on a boat trip out of Plymouth and they jump in the water. I mean, what a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Terrific.
At Plymouth, you do East Bay, you do the seafood boats,
Yeah.
and they're looking at an oyster or they're looking at a lobster, like, what is that? So I love sharing our local history so much. The history of my home in particular, with it being a shipbuilder's site, it's registered as a National Historic Landmark. 5 fireplaces, the original cooking beehive oven, a secret hiding chamber behind a wall. It is a really cool historic home.
Yeah.
And for folks to experience that when they visit, I get a lot of joy out of that. They come for training as their primary reason, but when they're not training, they're getting some culture.
Yeah.
And some local experiences that I think, not to be corny about it, but there's a lot of Me Too products out there, but we're the real deal. We've been doing it for 87 years, and we service the heck out of our customers. And when they come here, we roll out the red carpet, and you're going to get trained by the best, and you're going to have a little fun too. And you're going to come down to the farm, and Sean Hennigan, my childhood friend from Pembroke, he's the horse expert. With our Frisian draft horses that come from Holland, pull a carriage. And what a cool thing to take a customer for a carriage ride.
Yeah.
And then go have a nice seafood dinner. And, it's those little things that I think leave a lasting impression and help solidify and build these relationships for long-term success.
For sure.
And that's really my focus, is taking care of, keeping high quality products. Our R&D department is always going at it. We got to stay current.
Yeah.
And build good products, good quality assurance, and then service the heck out of the people that are representing our product line. Not everybody gets to wear our logo, and we're very picky about who becomes authorized distributors. But if you're welcomed into the family, you're going to get the buggy ride, and you're going to get the boat ride, and we're going to be good friends, and we're going to build a business together.
Amazing. Well, Andrew, you started before we came on air. You said you thought you only had 20 minutes in you. We're 55 in.
Oh, you're kidding.
So, look, I think we need to wrap up.
It's a long story. Yes.
It's a fantastic story.
Thank you.
We need to wrap up. However, was there any message for the folks at Pembroke, or was there anything that you wanted? You came here thinking, I've got to say this. I've got to share this.
I just love the town as much or more than anyone, having spent my whole life here. And, we have our share of bumps and bruises, but we're all in it together. Let's make our town better. Let's all, work together to improve it where as little or as much as we can. And I just hope there's lots of room for improvement still. And there's a lot of areas that need, attention, and volunteers really make a difference. So many folks said, you will never get that community center built. And I loved that. I love that challenge.
Yeah.
And I love seeing them today and seeing them in there enjoying it and being like, it can happen.
I remember when.
Yeah. So I just hope that people don't ever think something's not achievable. When you put we get together with like-minded people that care about the town, and let's all work together to keep this town going strong and work through our differences and make it a better town in the years ahead for our kids.
That's why we're successful entrepreneurs, Andrew.
Well,
So,
you gotta give back too. You know?
Yeah. So I want to thank you, Andrew, for participating. Andrew Sullivan, Protectowire, for participating today, and to thank our listeners for tuning in. This podcast will be available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube with additional links on our Facebook page. Don't forget to like us on Facebook at the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce. And if you're interested in becoming a member of the Chamber, please go to the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce website, pembrokechamber.org. Andrew Sullivan, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Fraser.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.